Hello, it's me, Ella again. Oh my gosh, my hair is a little bit crazy. That's all right. That's right. It's a beautiful day. So I'm here wanting to talk about perfectionism because it's apparently one of the most difficult problems that you guys have in terms of creating. And believe me, I understand because it's one of mine too. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it, and it's a huge topic, so there's no way we're going to address all of the issues of perfectionism in one Facebook Live. But I think I'll probably do a little series. And so the first thing I wanted to talk about was the cost of perfectionism, because it really puts it in the context of what you're missing out on, or what you're not taking advantage of, or what you're losing by bowing to perfectionism. So let me talk a little bit about that. So I remember the first time not the first time, but this is one of those pivotal moments in my life. So a little story about perfectionism. When I was in high school, we would go to high school dances, and I really love dancing. Like, I really love dancing. I feel free, and like my I feel like my true self joyously expressing through my body, right? A lot of people love dancing, especially a lot of women. And so, but when you go to these school dances, you're so self-conscious, especially in high school. And so you kind of sit to the side, awkwardly, because you don't want to go out and dance and look like an idiot, especially if you don't know if you're a good dancer. Like, you don't know if you can do it perfectly. And so I remember I was sitting off to the side, not dancing, and I was watching some of the guys dance. And at this particular time, I was in a school. It was a very small school, and everybody had grown up together, so they weren't so worried about what other people thought, because they had been raised with each other almost like brothers and sisters. And so I remember some of the guys were out there, like, doing the sprinkler, and doing like the going fishing for each other and reeling them in. They were doing all these really, really goofy dances, which in high school, when you grow up, you can do it a little more confidently. But in high school, being so goofy like that, I was like, what? And so, but I realized they didn't care about if they looked perfect. They were just going to enjoy themselves. And so that was a lesson for me, because I was like, oh, I'm missing out on this enjoyable experience because I want to look perfect, or I'm worried about looking perfect, versus going out and having the experience and dancing like I love dancing, and making that beautiful and happy memory of having fun with a group of people I enjoy. Like, I was missing out on all those things. And so since then, whether I look good or not, I go out and I get out on the dance floor, people, and I'm like, I don't care, because I am not going to miss out on the happy memory and the good times just because I'm afraid that I won't look perfect. Because what I did is I definitely accepted that I don't look it perfect when I dance, but I don't care, because I don't want to miss out. The cost of not dancing is too much for me. I'm like, I'm not going to miss out on that awesome dancing just because of this. Now, that's one thing, dancing, right? It's not like I do that with everything. I definitely have times when I bow to my need to be perfect. Like right now, I'm like, my hair is getting in my face. But I'm still doing it. I'm doing it. Anyway, so let me just go down some of the costs. Like, that was my story about it. But so one of the costs is making those memories, having those experiences that you get to have for the rest of your life, those memories that when you're older or aged, or that you will look back on and say, this was a really good time. If you don't get out there, you don't get to make those memories. Also, you get to get out there. You get to be Be who you want to be or do what you want to do. And that is such a blessing. We're in this life and we have this chance to be ourselves. Let's do it. Another thing is building that community. When you go out and you say, I'm going to do this even though I'm not perfect at it, you put yourself in a really vulnerable place, and people respond to vulnerability way more than they respond to cautious, like shy, not shyness, because that's not what I mean, but when you put your heart out there and you're vulnerable, people's hearts automatically respond. And so when you don't do that, you're missing out on those moments to touch someone's heart and have your heart be touched. And so that's one of the costs. The other thing is, I think, huge cost is when you bow to your perfectionism, you don't get to be your true self. Because your true self, you're giving up on that. Not giving up, but you don't get to be your true self when you say, well, I can't do this unless I'm perfect at it. And when you hold yourself to the standard of perfectionism, your true self is love and joy and abundance. And so when you say, well, I can't do these things that are your calling, it's from your heart, it's what you need to be doing. Like, and we're not talking about dancing unless that's your creative expression, but when you are trying to create something, like a creative lady, when you're a creative lady trying to create something and you don't, you hamper your true self, and your true self is love and joy and abundance. So when you stop doing those things, when you don't allow yourself to be that, you're cutting yourself off from that, which has more consequences than just your joyful abundant life, but also when you hold yourself to the standard of perfection, you don't allow other people to be imperfect. So you're saying, I'm holding myself to the standard of perfection, and then you don't have compassion. It's harder to have compassion for other people when they are not perfect, because you expect yourself to be perfect, and so you expect everybody else to be perfect. And so there's this lack of compassion that happens in our world because we are all trying to hold ourselves to these perfect standards, which I think we can feel the lack of that compassion, day to day. So there's it's incredible how many consequences there are, and instead of, like, right now, if you're being harsh on yourself because you aren't allowing yourself to be instead of perfectly allowing yourself to be imperfect, let's have some compassion right now. And that's the first step. That's why I don't want to leave this Facebook Live without giving you a step to address your this need to be perfect. So the first step is to forgive yourself and have self-compassion. And it's not actually, it's to forgive yourself for not being perfect, but not really. What it is to have compassion for yourself for being so hard on yourself. Like, be gentle and forgive yourself for holding yourself to that standard. You don't need to forgive yourself for your imperfections. You need to forgive yourself for trying to be perfect. Have compassion for yourself because you are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Allow yourself to. So one way I do this is I journal. So get out your journal and spend some time about, journaling about the things that you feel that you need to be perfect on, and then have compassion for yourself for not being those things, and have compassion yourself for holding yourself to that standard in the first place, because you are enough. You don't have to try to be perfect, and you don't have to, perfection is a terrible cycle, because you try to be perfect and then you try to be perfect by being perfect. Anyways, I'm not saying it very well, but maybe you get what I mean. So I want to end this with with my compassion for you and my compassion for myself right now, because this is an imperfect video, but I am enough, and you are enough, and you are lovable exactly the way you are. And anything you share with the world from your heart will be a gift to the world. Anything that you create from your heart and share with us and share with the world is a gift to the world, regardless of whether it's perfect or not in your eyes. It's still a gift because it's from your heart, and we appreciate you and we love you. So I'm going to do some more videos about perfectionism, and we'll address being perfectionism from a lot more angles. I think women have a lot of angles for it. We have to have perfect bodies. We have to be perfect mothers. We have to be perfect, perfectly lovable. We have all these standards of perfectionism that I'm going to address in the next month or so. So I'm really excited to see you some more, but remember that you're lovable and awesome, and I'm so happy to have you here. Thanks.